Inside the new Air Force One. Few aircraft command attention before they even appear. Long before its wheels touch the runway, airports begin changing the way they operate. Air traffic is redirected, security perimeters expand, and military personnel move into position. The aircraft hasn't even landed, yet everyone already knows exactly who is arriving. Because this isn't just another Boeing 747, it's Air Force One. To most people, Air Force One is simply the President of the United States airplane, a luxurious aircraft that carries America's commander-in-chief around the world. In reality, it's something far more extraordinary. It is a flying White House, a flying Situation Room, and a mobile military headquarters capable of supporting the president almost anywhere on Earth. Every major decision that could be made inside the Oval Office can also be made at 40,000 feet. Whether responding to a military conflict, a terrorist attack, a natural disaster, or an international crisis, the president must remain connected to military commanders, intelligence agencies, world leaders, and America's nuclear command structure. Even if Washington itself becomes unreachable, the presidency must continue to function. That requirement has transformed Air Force One into one of the most sophisticated aircraft ever built. Hidden behind its familiar blue and white paint scheme are hundreds of secure communication systems, miles of specialized wiring, and defensive technologies that remain classified decades after entering service. From the outside, it looks like a passenger aircraft. Inside, it operates as one of the most capable airborne command centers ever created. Yet even icons eventually grow old. The two VC-25A aircraft serving as Air Force One today entered service in 1990. Over more than 3 decades, they have transported every American president through wars, terrorist attacks, economic crises, humanitarian missions, and historic diplomatic summits. They remain exceptionally maintained, but maintaining aircraft designed during the Cold War has become increasingly difficult. Replacement parts are harder to source. Technology continues to age, and every modernization becomes more expensive than the last. Recognizing that reality, the United States launched one of the most ambitious aviation projects in modern history, replacing Air Force One with an entirely new generation of presidential aircraft. Based on the Boeing 747-8 Intercontinental, the new VC-25B promises greater range, modern communications, enhanced cybersecurity, and capabilities designed to serve the presidency well into the middle of this century. But transforming a commercial airliner into the world's most secure aircraft has proven far more complicated than anyone expected. Years of delays, billions of dollars in engineering, and the integration of highly classified military systems have turned the project into one of Boeing's greatest technical challenges. Because the truth is, the new Air Force One isn't really a Boeing 747 anymore. It only looks like one. Chapter 1. How Air Force One became a symbol of power. Today, Air Force One is recognized almost instantly. Its light blue fuselage, the presidential seal, the American flag, and the words United States of America have become symbols of American leadership around the world. Surprisingly, however, Air Force One wasn't originally the name of an airplane. It began as a radio call sign. The designation was introduced in 1953 after President Dwight D. Eisenhower's aircraft shared a similar flight number with a commercial airliner, creating the risk of confusion for air traffic controllers. To prevent that from ever happening again, any U.S. Air Force aircraft carrying the sitting president would use the call sign Air Force One. The name belongs to the office of the presidency, not to a specific aircraft. Presidential aviation itself began long before the Boeing 747. During the Second World War, Franklin D. Roosevelt became the first American president to travel regularly by aircraft, replacing dangerous wartime sea voyages with faster and safer air travel. His aircraft, known as the Sacred Cow, was simple compared to today's standards, but it represented an important shift. For the first time, the president could project American leadership far beyond Washington. As aviation technology advanced, each generation of presidential aircraft became faster, more reliable, and capable of flying greater distances. Harry Truman traveled aboard the Independence, while Dwight Eisenhower used a series of Lockheed Constellations known as Columbine. The arrival of the jet age transformed presidential travel once again, allowing American leaders to cross oceans in hours rather than days and making international diplomacy far more immediate. The aircraft that truly defined Air Force One's public image arrived in 1962 during John F. Kennedy's presidency. Based on the Boeing 707, the VC-137C introduced the elegant blue and white livery designed by industrial designer Raymond Loewy, a design that remains largely unchanged more than 60 years later. Rather than emphasizing military power, it projected dignity, stability, and national leadership. That same aircraft also became the setting for one of the most significant moments in American history. Following President Kennedy's assassination in Dallas, Lyndon B. Johnson took the presidential oath of office aboard Air Force One before departing Texas. The image of Johnson standing beside Jacqueline Kennedy remains one of the most powerful photographs ever associated with the presidency, reinforcing that Air Force One is far more than transportation. It is a continuation of the office itself. As Cold War tensions increased, military planners faced a new challenge. If Washington were ever attacked, the president would still need to command the government and the armed forces. That requirement fundamentally changed the role of Air Force One. Each new generation incorporated increasingly sophisticated communications, greater survivability, and stronger links to military command systems, transforming the aircraft into a true airborne command center. By the late 1980s, however, the aging Boeing 707 fleet could no longer meet those growing demands. The Air Force needed an aircraft with greater range, more space, and the capacity to support an expanding communications network. The answer arrived in 1990 with two heavily modified Boeing 747-200Bs, officially designated the VC-25A. For more than 3 decades, those aircraft have carried American presidents through some of the defining events of modern history. They have flown into conflict zones, supported diplomatic missions on nearly every continent, and become one of the most recognizable symbols of the United States anywhere in the world. But what people see from the outside represents only a small fraction of what Air Force One actually is. Because behind those familiar blue and white walls lies one of the most sophisticated flying command centers ever created. Chapter 2. Inside. Today's Air Force One. From the outside, Air Force One looks remarkably similar to a commercial Boeing 747. It has the same unmistakable hump above the cockpit, 4 massive engines, and the elegant blue and white paint scheme recognized around the world. To the average traveler, it appears to be just another jumbo jet parked on the tarmac. Step inside, however, and almost everything changes. Rather than rows of passenger seats, the aircraft is organized as a fully functioning presidential workplace. Offices replace economy cabins, conference rooms replace standard seating areas, and secure communication centers take the place of entertainment systems. Every part of the aircraft has been redesigned around one purpose: allowing the President of the United States to continue governing from anywhere in the world. Spread across roughly 4,000 square feet on 3 levels, the aircraft functions much like a compact version of the White House. At the front of the main deck is the presidential suite, which includes a private office, sleeping quarters, a bathroom, and a meeting space for senior advisors. The goal isn't luxury for its own sake, it's continuity. Whether crossing the Atlantic or responding to an international emergency, the president must be able to work exactly as they would in Washington. Immediately behind the presidential suite are workspaces for senior staff, including National Security Council officials, military aides, Secret Service personnel, communications specialists, and policy advisors. Many of the most important discussions surrounding foreign trips happen before the aircraft even lands. Intelligence briefings are updated, diplomatic calls are arranged, speeches are refined, and security plans are reviewed while the aircraft is still thousands of miles from its destination. The heart of Air Force One, however, isn't the office. It's the communications network. Although many details remain classified, the aircraft is equipped with an extensive collection of secure and non-secure communication systems capable of maintaining contact with the White House, the Pentagon, military commanders, intelligence agencies, and allied governments almost anywhere on Earth. Hundreds of miles of wiring connect these systems, with multiple layers of redundancy, ensuring that if one network fails, another immediately takes over. For the president, losing communication simply isn't an option. Healthcare is another critical capability. Hidden within the aircraft is a fully equipped medical suite containing emergency equipment, pharmaceuticals, and facilities capable of performing urgent medical procedures if necessary. A military physician accompanies every presidential flight, ensuring immediate medical support regardless of where the aircraft is flying. Supporting a presidential mission also requires far more than transporting a single passenger. Depending on the purpose of the trip, Air Force One may carry Secret Service agents, military personnel, senior White House staff, medical teams, communications specialists, flight crews, and members of the White House press corps. To support everyone on board, the aircraft contains 2 fully equipped galleys capable of preparing meals for around 100 people, while every item loaded onto the aircraft undergoes extensive security screening before departure. Unlike ordinary government transportation, Air Force One also carries journalists. The press cabin allows reporters to travel with the president, file stories during flight, and report on events almost immediately after landing. It's a reminder that Air Force One isn't just a military aircraft. It also plays an important role in diplomacy, transparency, and public communication. Beneath the main passenger deck lies another level dedicated primarily to cargo, mission equipment, and supplies. The aircraft even carries its own built-in stairways and self-contained baggage loading system, allowing it to operate from airports with limited ground infrastructure. Whether landing at a major international airport or a remote military base, Air Force One is designed to remain largely self-sufficient. Yet impressive offices, communication systems, and medical facilities only tell part of the story. The real reason Air Force One is unlike any other aircraft isn't because of how comfortably the president can travel. It's because of how safely the presidency can continue to function, even during the most extreme national emergencies. Chapter 3. The world's most secure aircraft. Commercial airliners are built around one primary objective: passenger safety. Air Force One is built around something even more demanding: survivability. If the president is on board during a military conflict, terrorist attack, cyber attack, or national emergency, the aircraft cannot simply divert to the nearest airport and wait for the crisis to end. It must continue operating, allowing the president to communicate, make decisions, and direct the government regardless of what is happening below. Exactly how Air Force One accomplishes that remains one of America's closest aviation secrets. Many of its defensive systems are still classified, and for good reason. Revealing precisely how the aircraft protects itself would make it easier for potential adversaries to develop ways of defeating those protections. While the public doesn't know every capability on board, enough information has been released over the years to reveal just how extraordinary the aircraft truly is. Security begins long before the aircraft leaves the ground. Every presidential trip involves coordination between the U.S. Air Force, Secret Service, White House Military Office, Federal Aviation Administration, intelligence agencies, and local authorities. Airports are inspected, runways are secured, emergency plans are prepared, and communication systems are tested days before the president arrives. What appears to be routine airport activity is actually a carefully coordinated national security operation. Once Air Force One is airborne, additional layers of protection take over. Depending on the mission, military aircraft may monitor the surrounding airspace while NORAD and other defense organizations continuously track the aircraft's position. Although the exact escort procedures remain confidential, protecting the president extends far beyond the aircraft itself. Communication security is equally important. Air Force One carries multiple secure communication systems using satellite links, encrypted voice networks, military radio, and high-frequency communications. Every major system is backed up by another, ensuring the president can remain connected even if one network becomes unavailable. Redundancy isn't simply a design preference, it's a national security requirement. The aircraft is also believed to incorporate protection against electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, events capable of damaging ordinary electronic equipment. While the exact engineering remains classified, publicly available information indicates that many critical systems have been hardened to improve their ability to continue functioning under extreme conditions. The same philosophy applies to its electronic warfare capabilities, where analysts believe sophisticated warning receivers and defensive countermeasures help reduce the effectiveness of potential missile threats. The government has never publicly confirmed every system on board, but secrecy itself forms part of the aircraft's defense. One of the aircraft's lesser-known capabilities is its ability to receive fuel while airborne. Although the Air Force rarely discusses this publicly, the VC-25A was designed with aerial refueling capability, allowing it to remain in the air far longer than a conventional passenger aircraft if national circumstances ever required it. Whether that capability would be used during a real emergency remains unknown, but its existence highlights the aircraft's underlying mission, keeping the president mobile under almost any conditions. Even the flight crew operates under unique responsibilities. Air Force One is flown by highly experienced Air Force pilots trained not only in aviation, but also in presidential procedures, military coordination, international diplomacy, and emergency operations. Flying the aircraft is only one part of their role. They must also be prepared for situations that no commercial airline crew is ever expected to face. Ultimately, Air Force One exists for one reason. If Washington were ever disrupted by a national emergency, the presidency must continue to function. Orders must still be issued. Military commanders must still receive instructions. The government must remain operational. Air Force One isn't simply protecting one passenger. It's protecting the continuity of the United States government. Chapter 4. Why America Needed a New Air Force One. From the outside, today's Air Force One still looks timeless. Its blue and white livery, the presidential seal, and the unmistakable silhouette of the Boeing 747 remain powerful symbols of American leadership. Yet beneath that familiar exterior lies technology that dates back to another era. The current VC-25A fleet entered service in 1990. At the time, the Cold War had only just ended. The internet barely existed outside government and universities. GPS technology was still developing, and cybersecurity wasn't yet considered a major national security concern. Although the aircraft have been meticulously maintained and upgraded throughout their service lives, they were ultimately designed for a world that no longer exists. Age alone isn't the problem. The Air Force continues to maintain the aircraft to exceptionally high standards through constant inspections, specialized engineering teams, and continuous maintenance. The real challenge is that many of the systems on board are unique. Unlike commercial aircraft, which can often be repaired using readily available components, many parts inside Air Force One were designed specifically for presidential missions. As manufacturers discontinue older technologies, replacing even a single communication or electronic system becomes increasingly expensive and time-consuming. At the same time, the nature of national security has changed dramatically. Modern threats extend far beyond conventional warfare. Cyber attacks, electronic interference, and sophisticated intelligence operations now play a central role in global conflict, requiring communications and security systems far more advanced than those envisioned when the VC-25A was first designed. The aircraft itself also presented another problem. The Boeing 747-200 platform has gradually disappeared from commercial service, making spare parts, experienced technicians, and long-term logistical support increasingly difficult to maintain. Ironically, one of the world's most famous Boeing 747s had become one of the oldest passenger-configured examples still flying. Recognizing these challenges, the U.S. Air Force concluded that modernization alone would no longer be enough. Air Force One needed an entirely new platform capable of supporting the presidency for decades to come. That decision led to the Boeing 747-8 Intercontinental. As Boeing's newest and most advanced passenger aircraft, the 747-8 offered greater range, improved fuel efficiency, modern avionics, increased electrical capacity, and a larger cabin. On paper, it appeared to be the perfect successor. In reality, the commercial aircraft represented only the starting point. Almost everything inside would have to be removed and rebuilt. Civilian electronics would be replaced with military-grade systems, secure communications would be integrated throughout the aircraft, and nearly every critical component would require multiple layers of redundancy. Engineers often describe the project as constructing an entirely new aircraft inside the shell of a Boeing 747. That complexity quickly translated into delays, supply chain disruptions, certification challenges, classified military requirements, and the enormous task of integrating highly specialized systems pushed the program years behind schedule. Boeing also faced significant financial pressure after agreeing to a fixed-price contract, ultimately absorbing billions of dollars in losses as development costs continued to rise. Despite those setbacks, replacing Air Force One was never optional. The presidency requires an aircraft capable of meeting the challenges of the 21st century, and building that aircraft would become one of the most demanding engineering projects in modern aviation. Chapter 5. Inside the new Air Force One. Although it begins life as a commercial Boeing 747-8, the new VC-25B quickly becomes something entirely different. By the time engineers complete their work, very little of the original passenger aircraft remains beyond its basic structure. The transformation starts with a complete removal of the interior. Passenger seating, wiring, electrical systems, environmental controls, and commercial communications equipment are stripped away before military-grade systems begin taking their place. Every critical function is designed with redundancy, ensuring that a single failure can never compromise the aircraft's mission. The cockpit also receives extensive military modifications beyond the already advanced Boeing 747-8 flight deck. While many details remain classified, the aircraft incorporates secure communications, mission management systems, and specialized equipment unavailable on any commercial airliner. The overall cabin layout is expected to remain similar to today's Air Force One, including a presidential suite, conference rooms, communications centers, medical facilities, workspaces for senior advisors, accommodations for support staff, and areas for the traveling press. Every room serves a specific operational purpose, allowing the president and accompanying personnel to continue working throughout long international missions. Some of the most significant improvements are invisible to passengers. Cybersecurity has become one of the highest priorities of the new program, reflecting the dramatically different threat environment that exists today. Modern governments face constant cyber threats, requiring secure networks and protected communications capable of resisting increasingly sophisticated attacks. Although the technical details remain classified, officials have confirmed that cybersecurity forms one of the core design principles of the VC-25B. Power generation has also been redesigned to support the enormous demands of the aircraft's electronics. Secure communications, computing systems, environmental controls, defensive equipment, and classified mission hardware require electrical capacity well beyond that of a commercial airliner. Every major system must continue operating even if another experiences a failure. Many of the aircraft's defensive capabilities remain classified, and likely will for decades. While the government has confirmed extensive military modifications, the exact technologies protecting the president are intentionally kept secret. In many ways, secrecy itself remains one of the aircraft's strongest defenses. Perhaps the most impressive achievement isn't any single piece of technology. It's the engineering required to make every system work together. Each new communication system affects electrical demands. Additional electronics influence cooling requirements. Structural changes alter aircraft weight, which in turn affects performance and certification. Thousands of engineers have spent years solving interconnected problems unlike anything encountered in commercial aviation. The result isn't simply a newer Air Force One, it's one of the most complex aircraft ever built. Chapter 6. Why it costs billions. Whenever people hear that the new Air Force One program costs billions of dollars, the reaction is usually the same. After all, A commercial Boeing 747-8 once carried a list price of roughly $400 million. How can transforming two aircraft cost several times more than simply buying them? The answer is that the airplanes themselves represent only a small fraction of the project. A commercial airliner is designed to transport passengers safely between cities. Air Force One is designed to ensure the President of the United States can continue governing under almost any circumstances. That difference changes everything. The aircraft's communication systems alone require enormous investment. Instead of standard airline equipment, the VC-25B incorporates secure satellite communications, encrypted military networks, classified command and control systems, redundant communication pathways, and specialized hardware capable of connecting the President with military commanders and world leaders anywhere on Earth. Every system must be engineered, tested, protected, and integrated with dozens of others before the aircraft can enter service. Power generation presents another major challenge. The aircraft carries far more electronic equipment than any commercial airliner, requiring a completely redesigned electrical architecture capable of supporting secure communications, computing systems, environmental controls, medical facilities, and classified mission hardware simultaneously. Every critical function also requires backup systems, ensuring operations continue even if individual components fail. Cybersecurity adds another layer of complexity. Modern Air Force One must defend against digital threats that simply didn't exist when the current fleet entered service. Every communication pathway, computer network, and software update must undergo extensive security testing before it can be approved for use. Modifications to Air Force One must meet some of the highest security standards in government. The workforce behind the aircraft is equally specialized. Nearly every engineering expense in the VC-25B program applies to only a single fleet. Testing is just as demanding. Perhaps the biggest misconception is that Air Force One is expensive because it's luxurious. In reality, luxury represents only a tiny portion of the overall cost. Leather seats, conference rooms, and private offices are relatively inexpensive compared to hardened electronics, secure communications, classified defensive technologies, and decades of engineering required to integrate them safely. The government isn't paying for a luxury airplane. It's paying for the ability to preserve the continuity of the United States government under circumstances where no ordinary aircraft could continue operating. Yet despite those challenges, there is no commercial alternative to Air Force One. Every requirement is unique, every major system is custom-built, and every mission carries responsibilities unlike anything else in aviation. That is why replacing Air Force One has become one of the most technically demanding aerospace programs of the modern era. Chapter 7. The Future of Air Force One. The new VC-25B is expected to remain in service for decades, potentially carrying American presidents well into the middle of this century. That means its designers haven't simply built an aircraft for today's world. They've attempted to prepare it for threats that may not fully exist yet. History shows how difficult that challenge can be. When the current Air Force One entered service in 1990, the internet was still in its infancy. Cybersecurity wasn't considered a major battlefield. Commercial drones didn't exist, and artificial intelligence played virtually no role in national security. Few people could have predicted the technological landscape presidents face today. The same uncertainty exists for the future. No one knows exactly how warfare, communications, or global security will evolve over the next 30 years. Hypersonic weapons, advanced cyber attacks, artificial intelligence, and entirely new forms of conflict may all shape the environment in which future presidents operate. Rather than attempting to predict every possibility, engineers designed the VC-25B with flexibility in mind. The aircraft also represents the final chapter of an aviation icon. Boeing ended production of the legendary 747 in 2022, making the VC-25B almost certainly the last presidential aircraft based on the Queen of the Skies. Whenever its successor eventually arrives decades from now, it will almost certainly be built on an entirely different platform using technologies that are still being developed today. Yet despite all the advances aviation may experience, one requirement is unlikely to change: The President of the United States will always need a secure airborne command center capable of remaining operational under the most demanding circumstances imaginable. That mission has defined Air Force One for more than 70 years, and it will continue defining whatever aircraft eventually follows it.